Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, FluentRise Podcast. Okay, today, we are talking about something simple but incredibly powerful, 100 minutes daily English speaking practice. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. How many times have you told yourself, I understand English, but I cannot speak confidently? Maybe you watch English videos every day. Maybe you read English posts, learn vocabulary, and even understand conversations. But when the moment comes to speak, suddenly your mind feels empty, words disappear, confidence disappears, and you begin thinking that your English is weak. But what if the problem is not your English? King, what if the real problem is that you are not speaking enough? Ka, short pause. Most people believe fluency comes from learning more grammar rules, memorizing more words, or waiting until they feel ready. But speaking English does not work that way. Speaking is not something that appears automatically one day. Speaking is built through daily action. Think about learning to swim. You can read books about swimming, you can watch videos, you can understand every movement. But until you enter the water, nothing changes. Your English is exactly the same. You improve speaking by speaking, not perfectly, not confidently at first, just consistently. Pause, let me tell you a story. Imagine two people learning English. The first person studies for hours every day. Grammar lessons, vocabulary notebooks, endless notes. The second person studies less, but every day spends 30 minutes actually speaking English out loud. After 3 months, something interesting happens. The second person often becomes more comfortable speaking. Why? Because speaking creates speaking ability. You train your mouth, you train your thoughts, you train your confidence. And confidence cannot be downloaded. It must be practiced. And think about it. Maybe nobody told you this before, but you do not need to speak perfect English to become fluent. You need to speak imperfect English repeatedly. That sentence changes everything because now you stop waiting, you stop delaying, and you stop saying, I'll speak when I become better. Instead, you start becoming better by speaking. Short pause. I know some of you are thinking right now, but I don't have anyone to practice with. That's completely fine. Your first speaking partner does not need to be another person. Your first speaking partner can be you. Talk about your day, describe what you see, explain your plans. Record your voice, ask yourself questions and answer them. At first, it may feel strange, then it feels normal. Then it becomes powerful. Pause. Here is something I want you to remember. 30 minutes every day may not look impressive. But 30 minutes every day for 1 year becomes more than 180 hours of speaking practice. You imagine where your English could be after that, not because of talent, not because of luck, but because you kept showing up. So in this episode, I am going to show you how to use those 30 minutes in a way that actually builds speaking confidence and natural English. And trust me, this may be easier than you think. Welcome back. It's great. Now that we understand something important, that speaking improves only when we actually speak, let's move into the next question. What should you do during those 30 minutes? Yeah, because many people sit down and say, okay, I'm ready to practice English. And then 5 minutes later, they have no idea what to say. That is where most people stop. Not because they are lazy, but because they don't have a system. Today, I want to give you a simple structure. A structure that removes pressure and helps you speak naturally. Think of your 30 minutes as 3 small sessions. 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Simple, manageable, and powerful. Short pause. The first 10 minutes are for speaking about your life. And this sounds easy, but most people never do it. Sit somewhere comfortable and start talking. Talk about your morning. And talk about your plans. Talk about what happened yesterday. Talk about what you are feeling, for example. Instead of saying only, my day was good, try expanding. Today I woke up at 7 in the morning. I drank tea and checked my phone. After that, I started working. I felt productive because I completed my tasks. Notice something? The goal is not beautiful English. The goal is movement. Keep speaking, even if you repeat words, even if you stop and think. even if mistakes happen, because silence never improves speaking, words do. Pause. Now, maybe you are thinking, but what if I don't know enough vocabulary? Here is the answer. Use simple words. Fluency is not using difficult words. Fluency is expressing ideas clearly. Imagine a child speaking. Children do not use complicated language, but they communicate. That is your goal. Communication first, perfection later. Think about it. Let me ask you something. Kang, when was the last time you spoke English continuously for 5 full minutes without switching languages? Not reading, not repeating. Actually speaking, if the answer is rarely, then today becomes your starting point. Because your speaking muscles grow only when they are used. Short pause. Now let's move to the second 10 minutes. This part is called copy and speak. Choose one short English video, podcast clip, or speech, listen carefully, pause after each sentence, repeat it aloud. Copy the rhythm, copy the energy, copy the pronunciation. Do not worry about sounding perfect. You are training your ears and mouth to work together. Think of this like learning music. Musicians practice songs. Speakers practice sentences. This is not cheating, this is training. At first, your voice may feel uncomfortable. You may think, I sound strange. Everybody feels that in the beginning. Keep going. One day you suddenly realize your speaking becomes smoother, your pauses become shorter, your confidence becomes stronger. Pause. And here is one important rule. Do not compare your day to someone else's year woo. Comparison kills progress. Instead, ask yourself, am I better than last week? That is the only competition that matters. Because small daily improvement creates big results. And in the next part, I'll show you the final 10-minute practice that turns passive English into real conversation skills. That is where things become exciting. Welcome back. So far, we talked about the first 10 minutes of speaking about your life and the second 10 minutes of copy and speak practice. Now we move to the final 10 minutes, and this part may be the one that changes everything. Because this is the part where English starts feeling real. This part is called Speak Like You Are Already in the Conversation. Most people wait for real conversations before practicing. But what if you could create conversations before they happen? That is exactly what we are going to do. Short pause. Imagine someone asks you, how was your day? Most learners answer with one sentence. It was good. Conversation finished, but fluent speakers keep ideas moving. So instead, try this. My day was actually really productive. I worked on a few important things, learned something new, and now I'm spending time improving my English. See the difference? Not difficult English, just more expression. That is the skill. Pause. Now, I want you to practice imaginary conversations. Pretend someone is sitting in front of you. Ask yourself questions, then answer them. Questions like, what did you do today? What are your goals? What would you do if you had more free time? What country do you want to visit? What makes you happy? Answer naturally. Do not memorize. Do not write first. Just speak, even if you stop. Even if you think, keep talking, because real conversations are not perfect either. People pause. People search for words. People correct themselves. That is normal. Think about it. Here is something interesting. Many learners think fluency means speaking fast. It doesn't. Fluency means expressing ideas comfortably. A slow speaker can sound confident. A fast speaker can sound nervous. So stop rushing, focus on clarity, speak at a speed your brain can support. Your confidence grows faster that way. Short pause. I want to share another small example. Imagine you walk into a cafe and want to order. Instead of thinking, what if I make mistakes? Try saying in English, hello, I'd like to order coffee. Then continue. Can I also get something to eat? Simple. Now imagine more situations, job interviews, meeting new people, travel, phone calls, daily conversations. Practice them before they happen. When the real moment comes, your brain feels familiar instead of afraid. That is powerful. Pause, and now let's talk about something nobody likes to hear: mistakes. Many people stay silent because they are afraid of sounding wrong. But every fluent speaker you admire has made thousands of mistakes. The difference is, they continued. Mistakes are not proof that you cannot speak. Mistakes are proof that you are practicing. If a baby stopped walking after falling once, nobody would ever learn to walk. Your English works the same way. Can't speak, fall, adjust, continue, short pause. Here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice this exact routine. First is 10 minutes. First 10 minutes. First 10 minutes. Talk about your life in 10 minutes. Copy and speak. Final 10 minutes. Imaginary conversations. Do not skip. Do not overthink. Just show up. Because the goal is not to impress people. The goal is to build your voice. And in the next part, we are going to talk about the hidden habits that quietly destroy speaking confidence and how to replace them. Welcome back. Now that you have a complete 30-minute speaking routine, there is something important we need to talk about. Because sometimes the problem is not the practice. Sometimes the problem is the habits that quietly destroy your confidence. And you practice, you try, you speak for a few days, and then suddenly you stop. Not because you cannot improve, but because certain thoughts begin controlling your progress. Today, let's break those habits. Short pause. The first habit is waiting to feel confident before speaking. This is one of the biggest traps. People say, when I improve, then I'll speak, but confidence usually comes after action, not before it. Think about any skill you admire: public speaking, driving, sports. Nobody starts confidently. People become confident because they repeat the action enough times. English follows the same rule. And so instead of asking, do I feel confident? Ask, did I practice today? That question changes everything. Pause. The second habit is translating every sentence inside your head. This one slows people down more than they realize. You think in your native language, then translate, then check grammar, then edit, then speak. By the time you finish thinking, the conversation has already moved on. Here is a better approach. Start building simple thoughts directly in English, not long sentences, tiny ones. For example, instead of thinking a full paragraph, start with, oh, I am hungry, I need water, I have work. The weather is nice. Simple thoughts become natural thoughts. Natural thoughts become natural speaking. Think about it. Do babies learn language through translation? No, they connect ideas directly with words. That is what you are training too. Short pause. The third habit is comparing yourself with fluent speakers online. This happens every day. You watch someone speaking beautiful English, then immediately think, I'll never sound like that. But what you see is their result. You don't see their mistakes. You don't see the uncomfortable beginning. You don't see the hundreds of days they kept practicing. Remember this, someone's chapter, answers, should not make you hate your chapter. Your journey is different. And progress is still progress. Pause. Now let's talk about fear. Fear of being judged. Fear of wrong pronunciation. Fear of making grammar mistakes. Fear of people laughing. I understand that fear. But here is something interesting. Most people are thinking about themselves, not analyzing your English. And the people who respect growth usually respect effort. You do not become fearless and then speak. You speak and slowly become less afraid. That is the process. Short pause. I want you to imagine something. 1 year from today, there are 2 versions of you. Version 1 keeps waiting, keeps saying, I'll start later. Version 2 speaks for 30 minutes every day, makes mistakes. Feels awkward, continues anyway after 1 year. Which version speaks better English? You already know the answer. Think about it. Success is rarely dramatic. Most of the time it looks boring. Daily practice, daily repetition, daily effort. But those small actions quietly change your future. And one day people say, wow, your English improved so much. And they only see the result. You know the truth. It was built day by day. Pause in the next part. We are going to talk about how to stay consistent even on days when motivation disappears, because consistency beats motivation every single time. Yay, welcome back. Now we reach something that almost every English learner struggles with: consistency. Because starting is exciting. Yeah, you feel motivated, you create goals, you promise yourself, this time I'll practice every day, then real life happens. And you get busy, you feel tired, you miss one day, then 2 days, and slowly the habit disappears. So the question is not, how do I stay motivated? Okay. The better question is, how do I continue even when motivation disappears? Short. Pause. Here is something important to remember. Motivation is temporary, habits are reliable. There will be days when you feel excited to practice. And there will be days when you do not feel like speaking at all. That is normal. Do not build your progress only on emotion, build it on routine. Think of brushing your teeth. Most days you do not wait to feel motivated, you just do it. English practice should become similar. Okay, not a special event, just part of your day. Pause. One mistake many learners make is creating impossible goals. They suddenly decide, I will practice 3 hours every day. They continue for a few days, then they burn out and stop completely. That is why 30 minutes matters. It feels achievable, small enough to start, strong enough to create change. And remember, consistency beats intensity. 30 minutes daily is more powerful than 5 hours once a week. Think about it. Let me tell you a small story. Imagine 2 people again. One person practices only when inspired. The other person practices every day, even on low energy days. After 6 months, the second person usually wins. Not because they are more talented, but because they kept showing up. That is the secret most people overlook. Progress loves consistency. Short pause. Now, let me give you a simple rule. Never miss twice. If you miss one day, fine, life happens, but protect the next day. Because missing one day is an event. Missing repeatedly becomes a habit, and habits shape results. So if someday you feel tired, do 5 minutes. If you feel busy, do 10 minutes. Keep the chain alive. Pause. Another powerful trick is attaching English practice to something you already do. For example, practice after morning tea. Practice after work, practice before dinner, practice before sleep. Connect your new habit to an existing routine. Your brain accepts habits more easily that way, and do not wait for perfect conditions. You do not need a perfect room. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not need silence. Your voice is enough. Your commitment is enough. Think about it. There is another challenge people rarely talk about. Some days you practice and feel like nothing is improving. You speak, you repeat, but progress feels invisible. Do not panic. Growth often feels invisible in the moment. Think about going to the gym. You do not see changes every day, but after weeks and months, the difference becomes obvious. English works exactly the same way. Trust the process. Keep showing up. Short pause. And here is something I want you to remember forever. You are not trying to become perfect. You are becoming comfortable. Comfort creates confidence. Confidence creates fluency. Fluency creates opportunities. Everything starts with one daily decision. Speak. You can, even when it feels small, even when nobody notices, because one day you will notice. Pause. Welcome back. We've come a long way together. By now, you already have the routine. You know how to use 30 minutes. You understand why daily speaking matters. You know how to avoid habits that slow progress, and you know that consistency matters more than motivation. But now comes the most important shift of all. Because long-term improvement does not happen when English becomes an activity. It happens when English becomes part of your identity. Short pause. Think about this. There is a difference between saying, I'm trying to learn English, and saying, I am someone who speaks English every day. Those two sentences sound similar, but they create completely different actions. The first one feels temporary. The second one creates identity. When something becomes part of who you are, you stop negotiating with it. You simply do it. Pause. Imagine someone who says, I'm trying to exercise, compared to someone who says, I am a healthy person. The second person naturally starts making different choices. The same thing happens with English. Start seeing yourself differently, not as someone waiting to become fluent, but as someone who is already building fluency every day. One conversation at a time, one practice session at a time. Think about it. What if you stopped saying, my English is bad, and started saying, my English is improving? Notice the difference. One sentence closes the door, the other keeps the door open. Words shape belief, belief shapes action. Yay, action shapes results. Short pause. Now I want you to imagine your future self. Picture yourself speaking comfortably, joining conversations, answering without fear, expressing ideas clearly, maybe traveling, maybe attending interviews, maybe creating content, maybe making international friends. That version of you is not created in one magical moment. That version is built during ordinary days. Days when you practiced even though nobody was watching. Days when you kept speaking even after mistakes. Days when you stayed consistent. Pause. And here is something beautiful. Every time you speak English, even for 5 minutes, you send a message to yourself. You say, I am becoming someone who communicates confidently. That matters because improvement is not only about language. It changes how you see yourself. You become more willing to try, more willing to express ideas. More willing to grow. English becomes bigger than vocabulary. It becomes confidence. Think about it. Now, let me ask you one final question. 1 year from now, will you look back and say, I wish I had started practicing earlier? Or will you say, I'm glad I started with just 30 minutes a day? Your answer begins today. Not next Monday. Not next month. Today, short pause. So here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, commit to 30 minutes daily, 10 minutes speaking about your life. 10 minutes copy and speak, 10 minutes imaginary conversations, no perfection, no pressure, just practice. And if you miss a day, continue, do not quit, because fluency is not built by never failing. It is built by returning again and again. Pause. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode helped you, remember something. Your voice deserves practice, your ideas deserve expression, and your progress deserves patience. And keep speaking, keep growing, keep rising. This is FluentRise Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks. Until then, take care, stay consistent, and keep speaking English every single day. The end.